I let my ex-wife's affair partner please reply to my daughter's wedding, then quietly rewrote the guest list and watched his past catch up in public at last. I nearly dropped my glass when I saw his name. There it was, plain as day, nestled between cousin Marlene +1 and golf buddy Dan Allen Damn Dorsey. RSVP, D chicken or fish +1. I blinked, thinking maybe my eyes had done that thing they do sometimes, mixing names, jumbling letters. But no, Alan Dorsey, the man who used to park his Lexus 2 blocks away so the neighbors wouldn't see. The man who grinned in my face at barbecues and called me brother while he was screwing my wife. I was sitting at my daughter's kitchen table in Dallas going over seating charts and floral arrangements while she FaceTimed with the wedding planner. The house smelled like cinnamon and drywall dust. She and her fiancé were still finishing renovations, bless their hearts. I was just there to help. Be the good ex-husband, be the supportive dad, smile when Denise made her usual passive-aggressive jokes, nod when she said things like, "Well, it's Melissa's day, Carl, not ours." But then that name, his name, I didn't say anything at first. Just folded the list closed like it was a newspaper I'd finished reading, but my hand was trembling just enough that the edge of the paper tapped the table, tap, 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 like a warning bell in my skull. Denise noticed. "You okay?" she asked, casual, like she already knew. I looked her in the eye. She was sipping wine from a glass that still had the store sticker on it. Fancy new stemware for the occasion, of course. I leaned back slowly, folding my arms. Alan Dorsey's on the guest list. She didn't even flinch. Didn't blink, just swirled the wine and said, "Melissa said, you're both adults. Just be civil." All right, fellas, quick break. We're shooting for 10,000 subscribers. If you're enjoying these gripping tales of betrayal, hit that subscribe button, and let's get back to the story. That word civil hit me like a punch in the throat. Civil. I was civil when I didn't throw a chair through our bedroom window the night I found out. Civil when I didn't go to Alan's office and drag him by his collar through the goddamn parking lot. Civil when I signed those divorce papers, half sedated and holding back a scream. Civil was what I'd been for 7 goddamn years. Now I was being asked to be civil at my own daughter's wedding with the man who split my life in half, sitting 3 tables away from me, sipping Pinot Grigio, and probably telling some smug story about Italian villas and how he knew Melissa when she was just this tall. I stood up. Denise stiffened. "Carl," she said, "let's not make this about ancient history." I looked at her, really looked at the Botoxed forehead trying to stay calm, the tight-lipped expression that said, "I still control this narrative." I didn't yell, didn't accuse, I just said one word. "Sure." Then I walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't leave tire tracks on her fancy new driveway. I just drove home in silence. I passed the old high school, the auto repair shop where Melissa worked part-time in college, the diner where Denise used to meet Alan behind my back. I saw ghosts everywhere. They smiled like nothing had happened, like 7 years of humiliation could be papered over with a fancy white dress and centerpieces that cost more than my truck's transmission. When I got home, I sat on the porch and cracked open a lukewarm beer. The bottle cap fell onto the deck with a sharp clink. Funny how even the smallest sounds can punch through your skull when you're that hollow inside. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I dug out a shoebox from the back of my closet. Not the kind with old letters or baby shoes. No, this one held something else. Blueprints, copies of contracts, an old USB stick, and a leather-bound folder with my initials embossed from my project supervisor days. I laid them out on the dining table like puzzle pieces. Years of discipline and planning had taught me one thing. The most effective revenge is delivered with precision, not fury. I looked at the RSVP card one more time. His handwriting was still the same, arrogant, loopy, like he was signing autographs for fans. "Looking forward to celebrating with the family," it read. I smiled not with joy, but with something deeper, colder. "Me too, Alan. Me too." The day after I found his name on that list, I woke up at 5:42 a.m. out of habit. Years of being the first one on site never leave you. Even if the only job you've got now is hauling folding chairs into a U-Haul and pretending you're thrilled about ivory seat cushions. Melissa sent me a cheerful "Thanks, Dad," with a stream of emojis when I confirmed I'd covered the final deposit for the custom bar. Something about smoked rosemary garnishes and bourbon taps. Her fiancé wanted rustic upscale, which near as I could tell meant spending $20,000 to make it look like you didn't spend $20,000. I smiled through it all. I posed for family photos at the pre-wedding dinner. Denise made a toast, clinked her glass against mine, and said, "Look at us. Not bad for a couple of exes, huh?" And I laughed. even when Alan's name was casually mentioned during a conversation about seating logistics. Oh yeah, he'll probably sit with the Chesters. I didn't flinch. But every night when I got back to my place, I pulled that invitation out of the drawer. I didn't know why I kept staring at it. Maybe because it was so permanent, so polished. Alan Dorsey and guest in engraved gold, no less. Like he was a goddamn ambassador. On the third night, after a rehearsal dinner where Denise hugged me too long and whispered, "Thank you for being decent," I sat on my porch with that card in my hand and dialed a number from a contact I hadn't used since Melissa's Sweet 16. Lisa Jennings, Bellwood Gardens. "Lisa, this is Carl Morton." Silence for a beat. Then Carl. "Wow, been a while. You calling about the bar setup?" "No," I said. "This is a confidential security matter. I'll explain everything in person." There was another pause. But Lisa wasn't the kind of woman who needed hand-holding. I used to work with her when she managed vendor timelines like a battlefield general. "All right," she said finally. "Come by after 10. Back office entrance." Click. I stared at my phone for a minute before setting it down. Then I walked into the garage, opened the old tool chest and pulled out a plain manila envelope. Inside was everything I needed. Nothing criminal, nothing dramatic. Just enough. Just enough to raise eyebrows. Just enough to raise questions. Just enough to make someone like Lisa Jennings look me in the eye and say, "You sure you want to do this?" Because that's the beauty of subtle sabotage. You don't scream. You don't threaten. You don't draw blood. You let the system do what it's designed to do, protect the illusion of peace. And Alan was a threat to peace, to my daughter's peace. Let him have his golf tournaments and steakhouse loyalty cards. Let him preen in his Patagonia quarter zip. But he would not stand in that garden while my daughter walked down the aisle. He would not raise a glass on that sacred ground, not on my watch. So I went back inside, laid out the documents, checked every detail 2 times. Then I stared at the ceiling for hours, listening to the creak of the fan and the low hum of my neighbor's sprinkler. No one knew what I was doing. Not Melissa, not Denise, certainly not Alan. To them, I was still the guy showing up early to unload chairs, the guy writing checks, the guy who just smiled and said whatever's easiest every time a decision was made. But beneath it all, the wedding machine kept rolling, and I was in the engine room slowly unscrewing the bolts. "Honestly, Dad, I'm proud of you," Melissa said, wrapping her arms around me like I'd just beaten cancer. "You've been amazing through all this." I smiled because that's what fathers do. We smile through pain, through betrayal, through the goddamn absurdity of having to clap ourselves on the back for not flipping the table when your ex-wife's ex-lover is invited to your daughter's wedding. Denise echoed the sentiment over coffee that same morning. "You've really grown," she said, like I was her student who finally stopped throwing spitballs. "It takes a big man to let go of the past." I nodded and took a sip of my burnt diner coffee. "Let go of the past? They say time heals all wounds. That's a lie. Time hides wounds, covers them up with polite smiles, busy schedules, and tiny acts of compliance that look like growth, but are really just fear dressed up in khakis. But the body remembers. Mine sure as hell did. The past wasn't gone. It was walking through the front door in 2 weeks with a tailored blazer and a guest pass, and they wanted me to clap. Alan's RSVP arrived in the mail with that same insufferable handwriting, looping and smug like it belonged on the side of a wine bottle label. "Looking forward to seeing everyone," it said, exclamation mark and all. Everyone praised me for being civil. I didn't even flinch when Melissa said, "We put him near the back, just in case." "It's fine, right?" "Sure," I said, because what was the point in arguing now? No one noticed the way my eyes didn't smile with the rest of my face. No one noticed that I stopped drinking coffee and switched to cold soda, or that I started showing up to planning meetings 15 minutes early and leaving 10 minutes late. I was watching, listening, timing everything. Then came Friday night, 1 week before the wedding. The streets were quiet. One of those Texas nights where the heat doesn't break even after dark and the air feels thick with unsaid things. I left my house at 11:12 p.m., the manila envelope on the passenger seat like a sleeping co-conspirator. Bellwood Gardens was empty, just the dull orange glow of the security lights and the soft buzz of cicadas in the trees. I parked around the back. Lisa met me at the service door, her hair up, reading glasses still perched on her nose. "You came late," she said. I wanted to be discreet. I handed her the envelope. No label, no fanfare. She opened it right there under the flickering backlight. She didn't speak at first, just flipped through the documents, her fingers pausing at keywords like incident, restraining suggestion, and inappropriate boundary violations. One sheet had a photo of Alan from 2018, tan, smug, his hand too low on a woman's back at a company function. Another had a timeline. Another had a handwritten note, old and crumpled, signed with Denise's name. Lisa's face shifted slowly, eyebrows arched, lips pressed thin. The look of someone realizing they've just been handed a live grenade and they've got exactly 1 second to figure out which way to throw it. "Understood," she finally said, pressing the envelope closed like it might bite her. I nodded, turned. "No thank you, no pleasantries, just the sound of my boots crunching gravel as I walked back to the truck." Back home, I sat on the edge of my bed in the dark, shirt still sticking to my back. I stared at the blank wall and thought about Alan, about how easy it had been for him to slip into my life, into our life, and how easily he was going to be removed from this one. The past was back, but this time it wasn't just repeating itself, it was being rewritten. The sun hit Dallas like a halogen spotlight, the kind of heat that melts lipstick and warps vinyl banners. But Bellwood Gardens glistened, rose arches trimmed to perfection, white chairs in symmetrical rows, a string quartet tuning up under the canopy like a scene from a bridal magazine. It was a damn masterpiece. I arrived early wearing my best charcoal suit, the one I hadn't put on since Denise's attorney explained how 60-40 splits work when infidelity can't be proven in court. I shook hands, hugged out-of-town cousins, laughed politely when Uncle Rich asked if I was ready to give my baby girl away. I didn't speak to Denise. She floated around in lavender chiffon, acting like the queen mother of reconciliation. When our eyes did meet briefly, she nodded with that brutal smile people use at funerals. I just kept moving. The ceremony was supposed to start at 2:30. Guests were being ushered in, camera phones already out, bouquets fluffing, programs fanning. Then at 2:18 p.m., the Lexus pulled in. Of course, it was a Lexus. White, gleaming, subtle enough to look respectable, smug enough to say country club member. Alan Dorsey stepped out in a navy suit, tie undone. Just so. He had the same cologne. I swear to God I could smell it from across the lawn, some citrusy nonsense that made women say, "You smell expensive." His date, a woman half his age with Instagram eyebrows, linked arms with him. He smirked, waved at someone near the refreshment table, and began his strut toward the guest area. That was when the 2 uniformed security guards stepped in front of him. I didn't flinch, didn't look, just sipped my ginger ale. "Sir," one of them said, "we need to speak with you privately." Alan slowed but didn't stop. "It's okay, I'm on the guest list, Alan Dorsey." One guard blocked his path. "Sir, you're not allowed on the premises." "Excuse me." Alan's voice sharpened. His date blinked wide-eyed. "I said you're not allowed on the premises." The guests started turning. Conversations quieted. The string quartet froze in mid-tune. One aunt dropped her program. Alan's voice rose. "This is a mistake. I'm a personal friend of the bride's family. I have paperwork here indicating otherwise." I watched him go red, redder than I expected. He wasn't used to being denied. Not in public, not by hired muscle. Melissa saw the commotion from the bridal prep tent and came flying across the lawn in heels she hadn't broken in yet. "What's going on?" she asked, panting. Alan turned to her like a castaway spotting a rescue boat. "Melissa, they're saying I can't." "Carl, you okay?" Melissa looked at me. I didn't answer, just kept my eyes on Alan, who was now frantically trying to explain to the head of security that this was all a ridiculous misunderstanding. The guards were firm but professional. "Sir, this was arranged in advance. You were flagged. You need to leave the premises." Whispers spread through the crowd like gasoline. "Isn't that the guy from the firm Denise worked at? Wait, isn't that the dude who, oh my God, didn't he wreck Carl and Denise's marriage? No way." Alan's face twisted into something between panic and performance rage. He looked around, but there was no saving grace. No suave exit, no speech, just silence, then cameras. At least 3 phones were pointed at him now. He tried one last time, turning to Melissa. "I don't know what's going on here, but this is humiliating. I came to support you." Melissa didn't speak. She looked from Alan to me, to the security staff, to the growing crowd of guests who were now witnessing a very public reckoning. Then she said quietly, "Maybe you should go." That was it. Alan stared at her like he'd just swallowed glass. Then he spun around, muttering something under his breath, and stormed back toward his Lexus. His date followed, heels clicking faster now. I turned back to the refreshments table, took another sip of ginger ale. The quartet started again hesitantly. The ceremony would go on, but the cracks had already started to show. I didn't even get a full minute to enjoy the echo of his car pulling away. Melissa was on me before I finished my ginger ale. She grabbed my elbow, dragging me behind the rose arch like I was a toddler who'd picked a fight in church. Her heels sank into the soft grass with every step, and her grip tightened with each breath. "What did you do?" she hissed. Her eyes were wide, frantic, glitter smeared on the corner of one lid from tears or sweat. I couldn't tell which. The string quartet was still trying to salvage ambience with an off-key rendition of Canon in D, but nobody was listening anymore. Not really. I kept my voice low, measured. I kept things peaceful. Melissa let out a bitter scoff. "Peaceful? You had him thrown out in front of everyone?" I shrugged. "Not everyone. Only those watching. Dad, what the hell was that? You said you were okay with it. You said—" "I said sure," I interrupted. "Didn't say what I meant by it." She stared at me, waiting for the punchline. I didn't offer one. My face was stone and it made her angrier. That's when Denise strutted over like a general hearing gunfire near the command tent. "What is going on?" she snapped, arms crossed, jaw clenched in that performative indignation she always used in front of an audience. "Did you seriously just humiliate a guest in public? At our daughter's wedding?" I leaned against the trellis, calm as ever. Lisa, the venue manager, had apparently seen this scene playing out from the balcony above and made her way down, clipboard in hand, expression unreadable. No panic, no apologies, just the cool demeanor of a woman used to cleaning up other people's messes without breaking a sweat. She approached us and cleared her throat. "This man," she said, tapping her pen against the incident sheet she now held, "was flagged for inappropriate conduct regarding the family. We operate on a client protection policy. The client reserves the right to restrict access to anyone deemed potentially disruptive." Denise blinked. "What?" Lisa didn't flinch. "This was discussed in person. Confidential documentation was submitted. Our security was briefed accordingly." Melissa turned to me, eyes darting between the two women like she was trying to spot which one was lying. You filed paperwork on Alan?" I nodded. Denise stepped in front of me now, full righteous fury ignited. "You had no right to make that decision without our input. You hijacked this event." "Interesting choice of words," I said. "Alan knows a thing or two about hijacking." "You're unbelievable," she spat. "Do you know how much this has damaged her day? The embarrassment, the chaos? Do you even care?" Lisa chimed in gently, trying to steer the conversation back into professionalism. "We handled the matter discreetly. He escalated the situation himself. Security remained courteous. Guests responded accordingly. The situation was contained like it was a biohazard." Denise looked like she wanted to slap me. Instead, she just breathed hard through her nose and stomped off toward the cocktail tent, muttering something about control issues and therapy. Melissa stayed. "I asked you for one thing," she whispered. "To keep it together." "I did," I said. "You still have your venue, your flowers, your band, your guests, just not your mother's side piece in the third row, grinning through your vows like nothing ever happened." She turned her back on me for a second, both hands on her hips, wedding bracelet glinting in the sun. "It's not about him, Dad. It's about me. This is my day." I nodded slowly. "And now he won't be in your pictures." Melissa didn't respond. The photographer called out for the bridal party. Lisa gave me a faint approving nod and slipped back into the crowd. My daughter stood there another moment, chewing her lip, torn between fury and something she didn't want to name. She didn't thank me, didn't scream either, just walked away. The ceremony didn't start at 2:30, not exactly. At 2:37, the string quartet gave up trying to play over the whispering and just paused, bows hanging limp. I started toward the back lawn where half the crowd was now facing the wrong direction. The murmurs weren't quiet anymore. "That guy, wasn't he the one Denise cheated with?" I knew that face looked familiar. He used to come to the neighborhood cookouts, didn't he? Wait, he got kicked out? Why would you even invite someone like that? I mean, is Carl okay? Honestly, I'd have decked him. The whispers weren't accusatory. They weren't about me, not yet. They were about him. Alan Dorsey, who was now stomping across the gravel like a toddler, leaving a theme park early. His jacket was slung over one shoulder, sweat glistening on his forehead, date trailing behind him like a deer in a forest fire. He wasn't shouting anymore, just muttering, cursing under his breath like the whole situation was beneath him. And maybe it was. Alan never had the stomach for humiliation. He thrived on control, on appearing composed, successful, above the fray, which is why seeing him flushed, rejected, and scurrying back to his Lexus while 50 sun-drenched Texans stared holes through his back. That was justice in its purest form. Denise hovered near the cocktail bar, pretending to joke with a florist while her eyes scanned the field, like a sniper looking for public relations damage. She was losing control of the story, and she knew it. I, on the other hand, was done performing. I handed my glass to a caterer, nodded at no one in particular, and stepped off the main path toward the side gardens. Shade from an oak tree wrapped around me like a closing curtain. I found a bench out of sight and sat down, finally exhaling, not with relief, but with precision. I'd played my part. Now I could watch from the wings. Back near the altar, Melissa was trying her best to duct tape the moment back together. She was standing tall, brushing non-existent lint off her dress, forcing a smile for the guests returning to their seats. Bridesmaids flitted nervously around her, adjusting train and veil and bouquet, but the shine had dulled. The glow was gone. The music resumed haltingly. The second violinist missed the cue. The pianist restarted 2 times. People clapped too loudly, too soon, like they were trying to pretend nothing had happened. But they had seen. They'd seen Alan escorted out like a criminal. They'd seen Denise red-faced and shaken. And they'd seen me standing, still as a statue in the middle of it all, saying nothing. The whispers would spread, and already were. Some would spin it as gossip, some would cheer it as justice, but most, especially the ones who knew why, they'd remember it. Not just the ceremony, the moment. Because in a world obsessed with happy endings, there's something unforgettable about a man quietly pulling one thread, just one, and watching the whole picture fray behind the draped curtains separating the ceremony space from the staff corridor. Everything pretty cracked wide open. "You invited him, Mom!" Melissa's voice wasn't loud, but it carried that sharp, trembling pitch you only hear from someone teetering between rage and tears. I couldn't see them, but I could hear every word from my bench beneath the oak tree. The shade was cooler now. Long shadows stretching across the gravel, cicadas starting to whisper. I thought Denise started, but Melissa cut her off. No, don't give me that you thought he'd be civil crap. You knew what he did. You knew what he meant to Dad. You knew, and you brought him anyway. Why?" "I didn't think your father would weaponize the venue," Denise shot back, voice suddenly shrill. "Jesus, Melissa, you act like I orchestrated some conspiracy because it feels like one." A pause, a rustle, someone knocked something over. Maybe a makeup brush, maybe a champagne flute, the kind of clumsy silence that follows a slap, whether physical or emotional. Outside, I cracked open a cold can of root beer from the little cooler I packed myself. No one offered me drinks during the chaos, and I hadn't asked. I didn't need champagne. I had this, and the sunset, and the knowledge that while everyone else scrambled inside trying to manage a narrative, I had already rewritten it. The florists came and went like ghosts, heads down, quick steps. One dropped a bouquet near the service entrance and muttered, "I knew I should have called in today." The catering crew clumped together near the delivery dock, hushed and wide-eyed, as if they were hiding from a sniper, instead of a screaming match about infidelity and guest lists. Lisa passed by once, clipboard clutched tight, jaw clenched in neutral professionalism. She didn't say a word to me, just offered a glance that might have been respect or fear or both. My phone buzzed in my pocket once, 2 times, then again. I didn't look at the screen. I didn't have to. Melissa, Denise, maybe both. Maybe her fiancé trying to mediate what was left of the fairy tale. I didn't care. Let them scream. Let them flail and panic behind layers of satin and white roses and carefully curated hors d'oeuvres. I had said my piece with action, with calm. That's the thing about chaos. Most people think it starts loud. They're wrong. The worst chaos starts quiet. One small shift, one calm decision, one envelope handed off in the dark, and now Denise was unraveling. Melissa was questioning, the help was scattering, the groom's parents were probably wondering what kind of circus they just married into, and I was sipping my soda and watching the sun melt into the Dallas skyline like nothing at all had gone wrong. It started with a snicker behind a phone screen. One of the bridesmaids, Sierra, I think, filmed the whole thing from the cocktail tent. You could hear the quartet stalling in the background while Alan puffed his chest and tried to argue with the security guard, only to get swatted down like a fly at a picnic. Her voice came through in the clip, whispering, "Y'all, I told you this was going to blow up." Followed by the now infamous caption, "When your mom invites her ex-affair partner to the wedding, and he gets kicked out by the bride's own dad." This was posted at 4:13 p.m. By 4:17, it had 11,000 views. By 6 p.m., it was viral. Somewhere between the first shared TikTok and the third repost on a private Facebook group called Real Housewives of Dallas Suburbs, the story mutated. People filled in blanks with their own color commentary. Screenshots from the wedding's Eventbrite page surfaced. An old photo of Alan surfaced, arms around Denise at a charity gala in 2016. Comments lit up like a 4th of July, sparklers soaked in gasoline. "Denise always gave me bad vibes. Carl's a damn hero. Imagine humiliating your husband and your daughter in one lifetime. That bridesmaid's facial expressions alone deserve an Oscar by midnight." Hashtags were trending locally. Hashtag Dallas wedding drama. Hashtag affair guest got bounced. Hashtag dad did right. Even Twitter got in on it. Someone posted a meme of Alan's walk of shame with the caption, "That moment when your past gets RSVP, but security disagrees." I didn't find out until the next morning. I had my phone turned off that night. I grilled a steak, watched a rerun of Columbo, and slept like a man who finally dropped a boulder he'd been carrying since 2016. It was Rick, my old neighbor, who texted me the link at 6:04 a.m. "Bro, you're on TikTok, and I think half the county just made you their folk hero." When I opened the video, it had crossed 1.2 million views. Melissa's bridesmaids were already fielding direct message requests. One local podcast announced he'd do a deep dive into the scandal on Monday's episode. A cousin posted a photo of the RSVP card with Alan's name circled in red Sharpie, captioned, "The mistake that started it all." Denise, bless her delusional heart, tried damage control by commenting under the original video, "This is a private family matter. Please respect our daughter's privacy." It was too late. Privacy was a quaint idea like cassette tapes or rotary phones. Once it hit the internet, it belonged to everyone. And everyone had opinions. Some said I ruined the wedding. Others called me a legend. A few trolls called it toxic masculinity. One guy, some retired vet in Oklahoma, just wrote, "That man did what needed to be done." But the one that stuck with me was a comment left by a stranger named at Divorce Buttwise 57. People keep asking why he kicked the guy out. The better question is, why did he ever have to watch that man walk into his daughter's wedding at all?
Damn right. My phone rang at 7:41 a.m. Caller ID, Denise Mobile. I let it buzz 2 times before I answered.
Not because I was hesitant, but because I wanted her to know I wasn't scrambling to pick up. Her voice came through like a chainsaw trying to whisper, "Take the post down. Now Melissa's crying. She's locked herself in the bathroom and won't talk to anyone." I didn't sigh, didn't blink. I didn't post anything, I said flatly. "You think you're being clever?" she snapped. "You lit the damn match and handed it to that girl. You think this is some kind of game?" I stepped outside onto my porch, the morning sun barely cresting the rooftops. Dew still fresh on the railing. The air was thick with that uncomfortable warmth Dallas gets before it decides to punish you with humidity. "Denise," I said slowly, "I didn't tell anyone to record Alan making a fool of himself. I didn't ask anyone to upload it, and I sure as hell didn't ask your affair partner to show up like a peacock on cocaine." Her breath caught. I could feel the fury through the line. "You ruined this for everyone," she spat. I smiled to myself. "No, I just made sure he wasn't in the pictures." I hung up. 3 minutes later, voicemail. "Melissa." This time I didn't answer on purpose. "Let it go to the recorder." Her voice was trembling, soft, like she was trying to hold it together in front of people and failing. "Dad, why did you do this today of all days? I know what he did, I know, but you didn't have to make a scene. People are laughing, sharing it like it's a joke. My wedding. It was supposed to be mine, not another story about you and Mom and your damn Cold War." I played it back 2 times. Her voice cracked at my wedding, like a porcelain plate dropped on a carpet, quiet but irreversible. Then I deleted it. No reply, no explanation, not even a text, because what she didn't understand, what none of them understood, was that this wasn't about the damn wedding. This was about a man who showed up to take something he didn't deserve again. And no matter how many bouquets, choreographed dances, or $600 centerpieces they used to cover it up, I wasn't going to let that happen. Not anymore. I poured myself a second cup of coffee. No sugar, no cream, just bitter and black and honest. Then I packed my things, loaded the cooler back into my truck, and started driving. No destination, just away, past the suburbs, past the wedding venue. Just road, just space. No radio, no GPS. Just the steady hum of tires and the silence I'd earned. I didn't need to explain myself to Denise. I didn't owe Melissa an apology. What they called damage, I called balance. A week later, I was baiting a hook on a quiet dock with 2 of my oldest friends, Eli and Wes, when my name came up on the radio. Not just my name, the story. It was a local station, Kaz 10301 FM, the voice of Dallas suburbia. Some smug midday host with too much energy and not enough depth was teeing it up like a game show segment. All right, folks. Hot topic of the hour, father ejects ex-wife's affair partner from daughter's wedding. Right move or nuclear meltdown? Eli nearly dropped his sandwich. I just kept threading the line through the hook. Wes chuckled. "Well, I'll be damned, you really made the papers." They weren't kidding. The Star's Telegram ran a piece titled, "Father Protects Daughter from Mom's Past, Chaos at Upscale Dallas Wedding." Human interest, they called it. 2 columns of veiled gossip dressed up as journalism. There was a grainy freeze frame from the TikTok. Alan's contorted face mid-argument. My shoulder half in the shot, calm as a monk in the background. Below that, the subhead. Viral drama sheds light on family tensions, moral boundaries, and wedding etiquette gone wrong. Commentary exploded. The radio callers followed predictable lines. He humiliated his daughter. Totally selfish. Are you kidding? I'd have done worse. That man broke their family. He got what he deserved. Maybe people should think 2 times before inviting skeletons to dance in the ballroom. Messy family drama shouldn't play out on TikTok. Yeah. Then maybe messy family decisions shouldn't be passed off as mature co-parenting. Some hosts framed it as a tragic generational rift. Others spun it like a folk legend. A few compared me to Clint Eastwood in a Hallmark thriller. One guy who clearly hadn't read a word said I was a toxic alpha relic, and that my actions were rooted in emotional violence. Sure, let them theorize. Back in the real world, Denise's social circle imploded like wet cake. Turns out the kind of women who nod politely at brunch while secretly judging each other's marriages don't take kindly to scandal. One by one, the invites dried up, accidental untags from group photos, comments left unanswered, side eyes at yoga class. By Friday, her name was practically radioactive in her tennis league. Melissa posted a short statement on Instagram. This week has been overwhelming. I understand now that certain choices caused pain for people I love. It was a misjudgment. I didn't know the full story. Please respect our family's privacy as we move forward. No mention of Alan or me, but she followed it up by deleting every photo that had Alan in the background. Even the rehearsal dinner shots, cropped them cleaner than a public relations firm with a deadline. People ask me, coworkers, neighbors, even the kid at the bait shop, if I had a response. I didn't. I didn't post anything, didn't comment, didn't explain. I was on that dock surrounded by old dogs who didn't need words to know a man had done what was necessary. The water was still, the beer was cold, the fish weren't biting, but it didn't matter. I sat there in the quiet, my phone face down in the glove box of my truck, and watched the sun ripple across the lake like nothing in the world was broken. Because for the first time in years, it wasn't.